A little later, Nahu came out. She took his hand and gestured for him to come with her. They walked in silence. Nahu was thinking that she would give him some medicine and let him rest for a few hours while Michel was out of the house. She kept glancing at Bomteha. She wondered if he was too big to fit comfortably in their small old apartment. The boy noticed that the girl was looking at him repeatedly. He smiled genuinely and openly. Nahu asked, "Why are you smiling so much?" He said, "Because seeing you makes me happy. I haven't seen you in so long." Then Nahu said, "I've been so bored since I stopped seeing that boy I used to see on the street every day." Bomteha was surprised to hear this. He thought Nahu would never admit that she was attracted to him. "Okay then," he thought to himself, "I'll come to see you every day now." He smiled again. He was incredibly happy with her. Nahu looked at him and thought that she really liked his smile. She couldn't take her eyes off him. Finally, they arrived home. Nahu said, "The apartment is small and old, but you can rest here for a while." She reached the door and suddenly stopped. She found it strange that the light was on inside their house. Bomteha stood behind her, feeling satisfied. Everything was happening exactly as he wanted. A woman's laughter could be heard from inside the apartment. Nahu realized that Michel was having fun with a girl in her apartment. Her hands began to tremble. She slowly reached for the doorknob. Bomteha stood silently and watched to see what Nahu would do. The girl hesitated for a few moments. Nahu stood there, thinking that Michel's infidelity had ruined everything, their love, their memories, and the time they had spent together. The girl's laughter from the other room echoed in her ears, and she didn't know what to do. Bomteha stood behind her and said softly, "Don't run away." He placed his hand on her shoulder, as if to comfort her. Nahu was as if in a trance. She was thinking that their relationship was over. A cold voice brought her back to reality. Nahu realized that their love had ended a long time ago. Their relationship and marriage were only binding her to her past, a past in which she couldn't even breathe freely. While her husband was happy in his life, she was suffering all the pain alone. Nahu tried to free herself from Bomteha's grip. The boy stopped her and said, "Calm down! Let me go!" she screamed. Suddenly, fire blazed in the eyes of the usually calm and timid girl. She freed herself with all her might. Nahu opened the door and went inside the apartment. Bomteha stood there stunned for a while. He looked at his hand, and a slight smile appeared on his lips. He was surprised that Nahu hadn't run away. She turned out to be much braver than he had thought. Michel and Ari were lying on the bed when suddenly the door opened. An angry Nahu burst into the room. "Michel!" she shouted. A frightened Ari covered herself with the blanket and said, "Why did you come in so suddenly?" Michel was in shock. He asked, "Nahu, why are you home?" Nahu had tears in her eyes. In her heart, she already knew the truth. She just didn't want to accept it. She asked her husband, "Who is this girl to you?" Michel was unaffected. In fact, he was happy that everything was now out in the open. He said, "This isn't the time to talk about this." Nahu grabbed his shirt. "No," she said. "I need to know everything now." Michel carelessly put on his clothes and pushed her away. "After 13 years of being together," she said in a trembling voice, "am I just a relative to you?" She trembled with anger and pain. Ari was watching all this. She suddenly realized that Michel had left her. Michel ran after her. "Wait, listen to me," he said. "We're already divorced. This woman means nothing to me." His words broke something inside Nahu. She was filled with rage. She grabbed his hair and pulled hard. She couldn't believe she had so much strength within her. Michel, trying to free himself, said, "You're crazy." She kept screaming, calling him names. Michel turned and hit her. She fell hard to the ground. He started shouting like a madman. "I'm fed up with you. Now I've found a young and beautiful girl. You can't even leave me." He left Nahu on the floor and ran after Ari. Nahu remained sitting there, broken. She looked at the broken vase and the roses scattered on the ground. She felt that her condition was just like those flowers. She clutched her chest, as if everything inside her was shattering. Tears streamed down her face. She started crying loudly. Michelle grabbed Ari's hand and said, "Wait, listen to me." Ari pulled her hand away abruptly and said, "Stay away from me." But he kept trying to explain. He said that he was already divorced and simply didn't want to burden her with his past. Baum-Teha, standing in the corner, was silently listening to all of this. Michelle was saying that Nahu was simply too obsessed with him, and that he truly loved only Ari. Anger began to boil within Baum-Teha. Only one thought crossed his mind: this has to end now. Michelle walked away. Baum-Teha, standing behind him, began to think about how deeply Michelle had hurt Nahu. He thought that death would be too easy a punishment for him. He wanted Michelle to suffer while he was alive, terribly. He would take revenge for every single one of her pains. He remembered how he used to follow Nahu, watching her silently. How much peace he felt just watching her. There was also a strange kind of happiness in his heart, knowing that Nahu had finally learned the ugly truth about her husband today.